So I was very tempted to maybe just do a live stream of the of the reform conference because there were a lot of funny moments to pick out and generally just make fun of. However, you've got to remember this is a party that wants to be, in power. So when they say some stuff, we've got to actually believe them. And a lot of what they've said is some really crazy, dangerous stuff that could have a lot of very bad negative consequences, especially on the UK. Nigel Farage, of course, the big thing saying, well, in 2 weeks, we'll stop the boats. How exactly are you going to stop the boats in 2 weeks? you know, um, there is, again, questions. Farage won't, of course. Because it is a very complex way to just spouting a very simple solution, which I'm sure he'll come up with. We've said about it before. You want to stop the boats? Labour could stop the boats very quickly if it wanted to by providing safe routes. If it provided a safe route across the channel, end overnight. There have been multiple people saying how you could actually do this very sensibly. I don't think the reshuffle helps in, quite frankly, all this regard. Like I say, Yvette Cooper been working on a very complex topic for the past couple of months now. That this is getting to grips with it. She's now in the Foreign Office, and someone else now comes in, now has to get to grips with that. But that's probably maybe another conversation for another time. I did talk about that this morning on the Good Morning Walk. But one of the things, of course, that Farage said in his big speech was that there's going to be every chance, apparently, of a general election in 2027. Now, this could be Farage desperately trying to advance the narrative that there could be a general election at any moment. And bear in mind, we went through a period in 2023 thinking any moment there could be a general election called, because that's essentially where we were at that point. That's the sense everyone have. We knew sort of one was coming, we just didn't know when it was going to be. And of course, 2024, there you go. So is Farage just trying to advance narrative here? Is he actually trying to force an early general election? I think so, because as I've said before, Farage cannot go this long and keep all these plates spinning for this long. I think Farage's popularity isn't as strong as he believes it is. I don't think they are performing necessarily as well in by-elections as we saw previously in the run-up to the 2024 elections, where we saw Labour and the Lib Dems performing very well in by-elections, just as the polls were predicting, but not so well in that either. I don't know. I am not convinced. I am not convinced that shall we say, the voting bloc might be as strong as they say, but who knows? I could very well be wrong on that, and I'm willing to say, yeah, I might be wrong on that, but who knows on that one? Well, I think so on this one, but I don't think it's as strong as they say they are. But anyway, you tell me. So, as always, like I say, click on the like, click on the share button down below. There are links, of course, to the Patreon page. There's a like button, there's the subscribe button, there's the bell button. Ring the bell so you get notifications when we go live, when we drop a new video. And of course, as always, there is the YouTube membership button. There's the Buy Me Coffee link where you can buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the YouTube membership button down below as well. So, with all that said, let us crack on then into this. So, Nigel Farage said there is now every chance of a general election in 2027. Now, I think this is running off the chance of what could happen in 2026, that you will get a lot larger number of local elections. They're hoping at least to build off of that. Now, that has largely come about because of, first of all, the collapse in the Conservative vote. They've benefited a bit off that. People keep on forgetting the Lib Dems did quite well in that general election, but again, there you go. That's typical of Dems, how they get reported. But obviously, there's the Senate election as well, and of course, the Scottish parliamentary elections going on as well in 2026 as well. So he wants to be pushing the party for any eventual chance there could be an early general election in 2027. Now, bear in mind, the next general election will not be until 2029, which would still be 2 years too early for a general election. But Farage is going to try and, I think, paint a picture, or at least put forward to the general public, that the government is so bad, so awful, there should be a general election. And that they are the only ones who can sort all this mess out, etc., etc. And they're not. They're going to be awful. They're going to be just as bad. They will not stop the boats in 2 weeks. That is for sure. But let's have a look at this and what he had to say. So Nigel Farage has said that there is every chance of a general election in 2027, as declared he will run on the pledge to stop the boats within 2 weeks of entering number 10. So at least we know what his general election campaign will look like. Speaking at the Reform UK conference in Birmingham, he said the chaos in the government and Angelina's resignation as Deputy Prime Minister meant the party needed to be ready to fight an early contest 2 years early. He said that Raymer's actions scream of entitlement. Really? Scream of entitlement, considering this is Nigel Farage, how he screamed at Coots and that whole banking thing that went through. Was that not a scream of entitlement? What about all the stuff as well that Farage has been caught up in his own house thing as well with his girlfriend? Is that not a scream of entitlement too? But anyway, there you go. And of course, the Labour government was now even worse than the previous Conservative administration. It is not by a long shot, but there you go. That's again the rhetoric they want to try and push. Keir Starmer, of course, reshuffling his ministers. Angela Rayner's resignation. The Reform UK leader said, laid out into now the cabinet of people unwholly qualified to run our country. Really, if they are the ones unqualified to run the country, who then is? Who then is? And what does those qualifications mean? Because I'll tell you now, I don't think any one of the current Reform MPs deserves to be in cabinet or even running the country, let alone Nigel Farage. So, speaking without an autocue or script, Farage said that Rayner quitting not just as housing secretary but as elected deputy leader meant there would now be an internal battle in Labour. Already, he said, they are facing the threat of Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana, the left of Labour, will now raise its voices, and we are, of course, about to witness a great split in Labour too. I think there is every chance now of a general election happening in 2027, and we must be ready. Farage announced that Zia Youssef, the party's efficiency chair and former chair, would now be its new head of policy. So again, moving Zia Youssef around like crazy on that front, but now he's head of policy. He said, of course, the core policy would be to stop the boats carrying people across the asylum from the Channel within 2 weeks then of taking office. We will stop the threat to now national security. What is a danger to now girls and women on our streets, he said. We will stop the boats and we will try and detain and deport illegally those who break into our country, doing what nearly every normal country around the world or does. You cannot come here illegally and stay. We'll stop the boats within 2 weeks now of winning government. Again, they won't. Remember, of course, Donald Trump said he could finish the war in Ukraine within 1 day of taking office. And yet here we are. How many days has it since Trump has taken office? Still, the war in Ukraine goes on. Why? This is a very complex solution, and Farage is peddling a simple option. And I guarantee you, if they did win and got in, they would not talk about these numbers at all. They would try and hide these numbers as much as they could. It would be very, very bad. But not only that, a lot of other things that they intend to do would be just as bad. Anyway, Keir Starmer and his predecessor, Rishi Sunak, have now both struggled to stop the dangerous crossings, now raising public anger on the right about housing, and of course, those seeking asylum in hotels. Charities now calling for now safe and legal routes for refugees, which again is what you should do. That is the way you can do it. That is the way how you stop it. But they don't want to do that, which is incredibly frustrating on that way. The Reform UK leader said that they had now brought forward his speech by 3 hours to try and address the fact that the government now was in crisis. He walked on stage to rock music and fireworks, breaking now in the middle of a speech of the former Tory cabinet minister Nadine Dorries to talk about her defection. God, I still can't believe they've accepted Nadine Dorries, but there you go. I mean, reform is becoming the home for all the Tory no hopers and no chances. It really is. And they think there's somehow going to be a better government. Oh no. There was rumors apparently Jacob Rees-Mogg is going to defect as well. How true that is, I don't know. But apparently that might be coming soon. Apparently that might be happening in the wake of the Tory conference, which suspects, I think, shenanigans might be afoot at that particular conference. Maybe there might be some move, maybe to get rid of Kimmy Badenoch. She said, of course, the government was now showing it could not manage the economy. Actually doing pretty well when it comes to the economy. Not amazingly, but, they're doing quite well at managing it. And, of course, Labour is now fracturing and dividing into two. She went on to say, we are now in deep trouble. You can either look at it now as the two main political parties up now to try and save the country. Farage and Dorries were then presented by the former Tory MP and, of course, the new mayor for Greater Lincolnshire, Andrea Jenkyns, who came on stage, and this was the weirdest probably moment of it all, in a sequined blue jumpsuit, bellowing out a pop song she wrote herself called Insomniac. She told the audience that we are all like the insomniacs, alert to the UK's problems when the rest of the country was now sleepwalking into decline. Weird moment indeed, and I didn't know she wrote that herself. That makes that moment even more stranger when you know about that. Returning to the stage, Farage then urged the audience to try and make Britain great again, spoke about a range of politics, in particular the culture wars now taking culture war talking points, did not even mention the NHS, housing, or transport. Which is where, if you are going to fight at the next election, that is where you keep on going. Keep on saying, Farage is talking about all these stop the votes, but what is he going to do about the NHS, housing, transport? We are doing this, this, and this. What is Farage going to do about that? Talk about how he would rather sell off the NHS, or would probably make it want to go private. Get him to promise right there and then, saying that if he took over, the NHS would be free at the point of use. Get him to commit to that. There's all kinds of stuff in a general election where you can sort of do that. That would be, again, very interesting. And if Farage ever got in power and ever tried doing anything with the NHS, he would face, I generally think, a riot on his hands. I think generally the UK would probably rise up at that point. I think there's people very, very much underestimate the care that we actually have in the NHS. I don't think any ever government would ever dare undo the NHS free at the point of use. It would be an insane move to do. Farage would be a lunatic to do it. But then again, that's what Farage is. Farage, of course, then praised the spread of St. George flags across lampposts, which critics have said are now just inflaming tensions and making migrants now feel unwelcome. The Reform leader said that every flag placed, in his view, was a way of sticking two fingers up at the establishment, saying that we have had enough. And here's the thing. You can always be the anti-establishment party until you then become the establishment. Who can Farage blame when he is the establishment? You can't blame the establishment when you are the establishment. He then also claimed that the government was now doing everything it could now to crush free speech online, saying, without a doubt, we are living in the most dangerous place the country has ever been in my lifetime. On schools, Farage said that he wanted children to be taught trades and services, saying we are refusing to have our children's minds we refuse to have our children's minds poisoned with a twisted interpretation of history. Again, it's not interpreted at all. It's just Farage doesn't like the way that we've come to look at history now, to be honest. He pledged to, quote, scrap the ridiculous, harmful, wasteful net zero policies. Those are having a very good impact on the UK at the moment. So that will go down like a lead balloon. And of course, he acknowledged publicly the Judeo-Christian culture and heritage that we have that underpins everything that we are. Again, culture war nonsense. 3 hecklers were then removed, of course, from Farage's closing speech, including one woman carried out in a very heavy-handed way, lying on the ground outside the conference center. Security also tried to prevent journalists from even filming and taking pictures of their handling of that episode. One of the protesters shouted at Farage that he was not the man of the people. The woman, of course, was then carried out. The reform leader said, "Go easy. She's clearly got some anger management issues." Yusuf then told a fringe event at the conference that recent Labour attacks on Farage, now for being unpatriotic, were familiar now to the Russiagate controversy in the US around the claims that Trump was now effectively an agent of the Kremlin. He said, "I think those sort of attacks are going to ramp up," Yusuf said. They've kind of realized that they can't beat us on the arguments. They're just going to have to give up on their ability to stop the boats. Yusuf also said that Tommy Robinson, quote, deserves some credit for raising the issue of grooming gangs, although he was clear that he would never be allowed to join reform. His tone was then, of course, at odds with Farage, who made it very clear about his rejection of Robinson's far-right activism as a result of now and fallout of the US billionaires Elon Musk and for 2 former senior reform figures of Ben Habib and Howard Cox. A Labour Party spokesperson rejected all of Farage criticism, saying that Nigel Farage could have used his conference speech to then offer more and then, of course, just anger without answers. He has to say more than "I don't know" to the problems now facing the country. He didn't. It was the same old parade of complaints that we've all heard before. His answer now to the charge that reform is just a one-man band was now to unveil one of the faces of the failure of the last Tory government, Nadine Dorries. Farage has now proven once again today that he's incapable of acting in the best interests of Britain. Yeah, Farage is going to be a disaster. Like, Farage is going to be a disaster of epic proportions. You can see it a mile away. You can see it a mile away. When you have someone who is offering simple solutions to the very complex problems that the UK faces today, it's not going to go well. It is not going to go well at all. But that is essentially what they are trying to do once again today. The lunatic fringe in in Reform UK on display, trying to present the front that we are the normal party. We are perfectly normal. Again, if he gets into power, it's going to be the worst thing ever to happen for him. He will not do very well at all. But it will be the first time Farage has ever been in power, and at the end of the day, he is then responsible. He will have to take some form of responsibility for it all. But until that point happens, well, hopefully it never happens, but we'll see. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think down below. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.